Greetings everyone and welcome to my channel. I'm your host, Captain Rye, and today's video has got me playing in the Tier 4 British battleship HMS Orion in my Road to the Conqueror video series. Now I have to say, as the battle gets underway, that the belt on this particular battleship is absolutely fantastic and beautiful to look at. Bad puns out of the way. As the battle gets underway, it's big race, it's everybody's favorite match mode in Epicenter, and it's a Tier 5 maximum battle. There are carriers in the game, but fortunately there are only Tier 4 carriers, and that's actually going to play a very important factor at the end of this game. But it is a Tier 5 game, and there are Tier 5 destroyers and Tier 5 battleships that I'm going to have to deal with. And I'm stock. This is my first game in the Orion. I still have an untrained captain. Well, he's in retraining, so any of the skills he has are 50%, and most of the skills, as you will know, that I like to use are only useful when they're 100% trained. The ship is stock, so it has stock anti-aircraft, stock health, stock everything, and stock engines and ranges. So I'm going to be pretty limited in what I can do here, and it is a Tier 5 game. Now, as the battle has been going for a minute or two, the enemy team has already managed to push up into that center cap point, and they're capping that uncontested. And in Epicenter, you've got to get up there, and you've got to push, and you've got to hold on to that. My team has already managed to lose one of our destroyers, so the enemy team now has a destroyer advantage. Of course, looking at the team lineup, they had a destroyer advantage to begin with, having 4, but that's not going to last very long. Look at where some of their destroyers are. We know they've got at least one down here. There are actually several of their destroyers down here, and they're coming up here. Now, I've seen them coming. I'm switching over to the high explosives. Our friendly cruiser gets taken out there by a destroyer, but that destroyer is in very bad way, and he actually gets taken out by secondaries from the Iron Duke that was next to me. Now these other destroyers, they're coming around here, and again, remember, I saw them coming, so I switched over to the high explosive. I'm getting my ship turned around, and I'm getting my rear guns lined up for a shot at them. The secondaries on this ship are not bad for Tier 4, and at this kind of range, they're actually doing a pretty good job. So, shots lined up, shots out there, cause quite a bit of damage. It's British high explosive from the battleship. Get shots out there, managed to connect with him, but my secondary actually managed to finish him off. So I actually got a close quarters expert there in a stock Tier 4 British battleship, which is kind of impressive in any ship. And that's actually going to be my first kill in this game. Now you can see the enemy aircraft carrier is sending his planes back over, and they're disappearing out of sight. He went after our friendly carrier. It seems to be a pretty common tactic that a lot of carrier players, especially at low tier, like to do. They like to go carrier sniping. And that's not a bad tactic at the beginning of the battle, but it's not very helpful. And because it's not very helpful to your team, helping narrow down the enemy team or whittle them down in damage, since you are just a Tier 4 carrier, killing somebody outright is going to be kind of difficult. That is going to play an important fact. Now, the enemy team did manage to cap that center location, and we've started to cap it, but if you'll notice, the only person who is capping it isn't in a very good position to do so. I get shots out at that destroyer. He left his smoke screen. He did die. Friendly destroyer up there did just get himself offed by the enemy battleship. Actually, I think he might have gotten taken out by guns from the other destroyer. So that's going to be my second kill, and now there are no enemy destroyers left. We still have one destroyer, but he's not going to survive very long in this battle, surprisingly enough. I'm looking for shots to take, and I've got broadside shots at that Wyoming yet again. He's off in the distance there. I get shots out there, and just like the Bellerophon, I have to say that the accuracy on these British battleships, even at low tiers, especially at low tiers, is actually ridiculously good. Now, what I really like about the Orion in comparison to other Tier 4 battleships, especially the Wyoming, is the gun configuration, that layout. It's very reminiscent to the New York, except it has a much better firing arc in that center turret. much better than other ships at Tier 4. The other advantage is, as you get used to playing this ship, it's the same as the Iron Duke. The same gun layout, that same configuration, with the same fantastic firing arc for that center turret. Now, I've got an Iron Duke, speaking of which, coming around the headland of this island, and he is completely focused on that other battleship. So he's not paying attention to me as he comes around here. He's broadside on, and I get my guns out there, smack him. Didn't do that good of damage, but the second shots that I fired there actually did penetrate for a whopping 14,000 damage. And now we're in a close quarters fight. Our secondaries are blazing away at each other. But again, this Iron Duke, he's completely fixated on the other battleship. He's not paying attention to me at all. So our Hiei is going to try and keep angled to him. He's going to try and run away. And this battleship is trying to keep all his guns on bear to him, not really paying attention to me again, and that's going to cost him as I'm able to get shots into him and secure yet another kill. Now, the enemy team has managed to secure the 2 inner rings of the cap location, so they're gaining points ridiculously quick, and they're not contested at all. Plus, they're currently up on ships. My team down to just 4 ships, and we've lost our carrier. Well, the enemy team still has theirs, and that is a massive detriment, because that means their carrier can play completely unhindered. He can send his aircraft, he can send his fighters to scout, he can send his bombers to attack without risk of having fighters swoop in and wreck his day. Our destroyer did finally meet his end. He was back all the way down over where the enemy carrier was, and he was spotting the enemy carrier, actually, which was kind of a good thing for us. So I know where he's at, but he's way out of range. And of course, I have to get in here, and I have to start contesting this cap location. The enemy team way up on points. I mean, at this point, we're 400 points behind the enemy team, and we're down to just 3 ships. Now, I ate a couple of torpedoes earlier in the battle, and that cost me quite a bit of health. But by comparison to the other ships, I haven't really been shot at all that much, so I'm able to recover the health that I have been losing from mostly secondaries, and I'm able to get that recovered back up to 3/4 health, and that is also going to play an important factor. Wyoming caught out in the open. He's stopped. He's broadside on. I get a full broadside off. He starts recovering health, so I'm thinking I might not be able to kill him in that salvo, but nope, I do. I managed to finish him off, and that's my 4th kill in this game. So now I'm sitting on 4 kills in a stock Tier 4 and a Tier 5 battle, but there's still at least 2 ships left, including a cruiser who did look very low health, but it was a British cruiser, so he can recover quite a bit of that health. But I also have to remember that there is a carrier, and that carrier still has full squadrons of planes. I don't know how many aircraft that carrier has managed to save. I don't know how he's managed to do this. I know whenever I played the Hosho, I did never seem to have this many reserve aircraft, but this Hosho player has got so many full squadrons that are going to come after the remaining 3 ships on this game. On my team, this is going to be a major problem. Now, I'm pushing up here, but I am being cautious of the fact that there is the carrier. I know where he's at, so I know which direction the planes are going to come from. And I've got the health. I can probably eat a couple of torpedoes if it came down to it. The advantage here to me is that it is a low-tier carrier. They can't manual drop anymore. Thank God for this, because if he could still manual drop on me, that would be a major, major issue. Now, I've pushed up here into the 2nd ring, so I'm contesting that as well, and that's going to prevent the enemy team from, at the very least, gaining even more of a points lead. But you can see they've really got a massive points lead. It's like 500 points difference here. There's not much way to come back from this, but there's still a lot of time left on the clock, and the way to come back from this is to get up in here, and it's to start capping that center location, because that's the only place that they're gaining points. Here come the aircraft that I was concerned about, both squadrons of torpedo bombers. Now, I'm already in the process of turning, trying to get my rear gun turrets lined up against this cruiser. So I'm turning away here, and this is actually a really good thing for me, because it means I can narrow out my profile, and I only eat 1 torpedo. And that only eating 1 torpedo is going to save my bacon from future attacks, because it means that I didn't eat more damage. And since I have a limited number of repairs here, and that's partly due to the lack of superintendent, basically, that I don't have an extra heal. Now, I get the first shots out there, they were over penetrations, but the second shots from the rear turrets, much more accurate. Double Citadel, finished off that emerald, and earned my Kraken Unleash. And at this point, I've done 82,000 damage, and there's only one ship left on the enemy team, and that is the carrier. More importantly, I've managed to secure the cap in the center, so my team's going to start gaining points. The enemy team no longer gaining points, because there are no more enemy ships anywhere in the cap zone. That means that we're going to start gaining the middle ring and the outer ring at the same time. And the 3 remaining ships on my team, myself included, include 2 Tier 5 battleships and me in a Tier 4 battleship. Now, the anti-aircraft on the Orion stock is not bad. It's certainly better than the Wyoming and certainly better than the Arkansas Beta. But it's not the best. It can deal with Tier 4 aircraft to some respect. As you can see there, I've actually shot down a fair few of the enemy carrier's planes. And as he keeps coming back to look for targets to try and win it, and he is going to try hard to win this game. And you have to commend a carrier player who doesn't just give up and suicide at this point, or doesn't just give up. He's going to keep coming back, and you can see here the plane's coming back, so I'm bow onto them. I'm prepped here. I actually shot down a fighter, but I'm hoping I can shoot down more of his torpedo bombers. So as they come in here, aircraft blazing away at his planes. I've actually managed to help shoot down one of them, but some of these planes are being shot down by the HEA, and that's a Tier 5 battleship. So he's got better AA. Yeah, it's only Congo AA, but it's still better. Now I'm trying to slow down. I'm trying to thread the needle here. Not quite enough. Eat 1 torpedo right there. Dead center. No flooding, which is fortunate for me. But now I've caught myself out in the open. I'm going to end up eating 1 on the stern, and it looks like I'm going to eat 1 on the bow there. 2 torpedoes, 8. Both which caused flooding, but I've popped the repair, so I'm not going to be flooding there. And by the time he gets his aircraft rearmed and back towards me, I will have my repairability up again, but I can only realistically eat 1 more torpedo, and only in that center torpedo bulge on my belt. Otherwise, I'm dead. I'm doomed at this point. If I eat 1 in the bow, maybe I'm damage saturated in the bow now. I don't know, but I don't want to risk it. Now, I'm typing into the chat here that I want to coordinate. I want to get both of our remaining battleships that are in front and behind me to cluster up and combine our anti-aircraft firepower. Between the 3 of us, we've got some pretty good firepower, and we should be able to at least annihilate 1 of his bomber squadrons, which for the HEA and myself could mean the difference between living and dying. Now, of course, the HEA is a Congo-class battleship. He's a fast battleship. He's moving quite a bit faster than I am, so he's actually gotten out in front of me. We know where he is, this carrier, roughly, because we can see where his planes are coming from. And all we really need to do is get down there and get close enough, and we can start shooting at him. But there's not a lot of time left here in the battle. More importantly, my team is now up on points. We have the points lead. But there's still enough time here. This carrier can keep coming back. And considering how low health I am and how low health that HEA is, this carrier could pose a serious and significant threat and possibly try and win it just based off killing us. So HEA's got torpedoes out at him. Can he dodge them? Yes, he dodges those, but this guy is no fool. He's got a cross drop planned here. And that second drop from that second squadron. Now, the first squadron did get taken out mostly. A lot of planes lost there, but oh my god, that HEA is going to eat some torpedoes. He eats 1, he eats 2, he's left with like 300 health, but he survived. Holy shit. More importantly, gaining these points, and now that carrier has to rearm his plane. 300 HP That was lucky RNG there. Now I'm detected. That tells me the carrier is in range there briefly, so we know roughly where he's at, how far away he's at. I think that Hiei might have not been too many kilometers out from detecting the carrier, but of course being forced to turn away in order to not die did prevent him from spotting. But now we're going to win on points because that carrier cannot rearm his planes and get them out fast enough to finish off this carrier, or to finish off this battleship in time. So victory by points for my team. Come from behind win there, not giving up at all. 82,000 damage in a stock tier 4 battleship in a tier 5 game with a close quarters expert and a Kraken Unleashed. Of course, why not? And of course, with a come from behind victory like that, you would expect to be top of the team for XP earned, and you would expect correctly. Top of the team for XP earned in that game. Not quite enough to break 2,000 base XP though, although I think that might have been partly due to the fact that it was Epicenter. Anyway, that's it for today's video, folks. If you like the video, hit that like button, hit the subscribe, follow button, and leave a comment on the video. If you'd like to get semi-regular channel news and updates, you can do so by liking and following me on Facebook. If you'd like to help support me and the channel, you can do so by supporting me on Patreon. Patreon supporters will get additional perks and benefits. And speaking of Patreon supporters, I'd like to give a big shout out to my two newest Patreon supporters, Alien Marksman and Benjamin. Thank you both for your contribution. If you'd like to see a replay like this one on my channel, you can send it to my email. And if you'd like to watch me play various games live, you can do so by following me on Twitch. While I haven't been on Twitch lately, I will be returning to that platform for some live streaming soon enough. Anyway, as always, you can find the links for all of those in the description down below. And I'll see you next time. This is Captain Rye, signing off.